If we look at the pharmaceutical industry over the past 2 decades, one trend stands out with uncomfortable clarity. The cost of bringing a new molecular entity to market has risen dramatically, while the probability of success has not improved proportionally. This phenomenon is often described as Eroom's law, the inverse of Moore's law, where R&D productivity declines despite advances in science and technology. But here is the opportunity. Eroom's law is not a law of nature, it is a structural inefficiency. And structural inefficiencies can be redesigned. The traditional drug development model is sequential, fragmented, and heavily dependent on trial and error experimentation, target discovery, identification, lead optimization, preclinical testing, phase 1 to 3. Each stage compounds uncertainty. Attrition is not a surprise. It is built into the architecture of the system. Today, the average probability of a molecule entering phase 1 and reaching approval remains low. Phase 2 remains the most expensive inflection point of failure. Every failed asset represents not only sunk cost, but lost opportunity cost, capital, talent, and time that could have been redeployed. The strategic question for leadership is no longer whether AI is interesting. The question is whether we are willing to continue funding attrition at historical rates when computational probability amplification is available. Artificial intelligence, particularly machine learning and deep learning, should not be viewed as automation. It should be viewed as a probability engine. Machine learning excels at pattern recognition across high-dimensional datasets. In drug discovery, we deal with genomic signals, proteomic networks, chemical libraries, patient phenotypes, clinical endpoints, and real-world evidence streams. These are not linear systems. They are complex, multivariate, and noisy. Traditional statistical approaches struggle under such dimensionality. Machine learning models, particularly deep neural networks, are designed for this environment. They identify non-obvious correlations, nonlinear interactions, and latent patterns that are invisible to human analysis. This is not about replacing scientists. It is about expanding their field of vision. Deep learning architectures can model protein folding patterns, molecular interactions, and biological pathways at scale. Generative models can propose novel molecular structures optimized for desired properties. Predictive models can estimate ADMET profiles before wet lab validation begins. Each of these capabilities compresses uncertainty earlier in the pipeline, and that is the strategic breakthrough. If we reduce uncertainty at the target validation stage, fewer weak hypotheses move forward. If we improve molecular property prediction, fewer compounds fail in preclinical toxicity testing. If we stratify patients better before phase 2, responder rates increase and trial power improves. AI does not eliminate risk. It redistributes it earlier where cost is lower. This is pipeline risk compression. In financial terms, drug development resembles a portfolio of high-risk options. Each candidate represents an option with uncertain payoff. The objective is not to eliminate failure, it is to improve expected portfolio value. Machine learning increases expected value by improving probability estimates at each decision gate. Instead of advancing molecules based primarily on limited experimental data and expert intuition, leaders can incorporate predictive modeling outputs that quantify likelihood of success. This enables more disciplined portfolio management. Capital allocation becomes more rational. Rather than funding 10 assets with weak predictive confidence, organizations can reallocate capital toward assets with higher model-informed probability of technical and regulatory success. This is not speculative optimism. We are already seeing AI-native biotech companies operating with leaner structures, shorter design cycles, and more targeted pipelines. They are not immune to failure, but they are compressing design iteration cycles dramatically. Time compression is strategic advantage. Every month saved in discovery or development translates into earlier revenue realization and extended effective patent life. In highly competitive therapeutic areas, speed defines market leadership. Deep learning models trained on historical clinical datasets can simulate trial outcomes under different inclusion criteria. Adaptive protocol design, informed by simulation, can optimize sample size and endpoint sensitivity before enrollment begins. This is not replacing statisticians. It is augmenting their predictive foresight. From a capital perspective, the implication is profound. The industry often focuses on cost reduction. AI's greater contribution is return enhancement. If probability of success improves by even a few percentage points across the pipeline, the net present value impact is significant. Consider the mathematics. If phase 2 success probability increases modestly through better biomarker stratification, downstream phase 3 investment risk decreases. The compounding effect across stages materially shifts portfolio economics. This is where leadership courage matters. The AI adoption requires data infrastructure investment, cross-functional collaboration between computational scientists and bench researchers, and disciplined model validation frameworks. It requires governance aligned with GXP standards. It requires careful integration into decision gates. But the alternative is continued structural inefficiency. Machine learning models are not infallible. They can overfit, they can misinterpret biased datasets, they can amplify noise if poorly validated. That is why governance maturity must accompany implementation. Yet that these risks are manageable. What is far riskier is inaction. Deep learning, generative chemistry, and predictive modeling are advancing rapidly. External partners, AI native biotech startups, and technology firms are integrating these tools aggressively. If established pharma organizations hesitate, competitive asymmetry widens. The strategic case is not about replacing traditional R&D, it is about augmenting it. Human expertise remains central: hypothesis generation, biological interpretation, clinical judgment. AI enhances hypothesis prioritization, pattern detection, and probabilistic forecasting. Think of AI as an intelligence multiplier embedded within the pipeline. When ML models analyze multiomics data for target discovery, they reduce blind exploration. When deep learning predicts molecular interactions, it reduces brute force screening for screening. When predictive analytics inform trial design, they reduce late-stage surprises. Each intervention reduces attrition. Attrition reduction is not merely cost savings. It is strategic acceleration. The organizations that will lead in the next decade will not necessarily be those with the largest pipelines. They will be those with the highest probability-weighted pipelines. Probability-weighted pipelines require predictive infrastructure. For CROs, AI integration becomes a differentiator. Offering AI-enhanced trial design, patient recruitment analytics, and operational forecasting strengthens sponsor relationships. For CDMOs, predictive manufacturing stability improves reliability and margin protection. For regulatory organizations, structured data analytics enhance review consistency and efficiency. The transformation is ecosystem-wide. Leadership should therefore view AI investment not as discretionary technology spending, but as core R&D infrastructure modernization. Just as high-throughput screening transformed early discovery decades ago, machine learning and deep learning are transforming probabilistic insight today. The question before leadership is straightforward. Do we continue managing uncertainty reactively, or do we proactively engineer probability amplification into our pipeline? Eroom's law reflects a legacy model. AI provides the tools to reverse it. The opportunity is not hypothetical, it is operational. By embedding machine learning into target prioritization, deep learning into molecular design, predictive analytics into translational strategy, and simulation modeling into trial planning, leaders can redesign the economics of drug development. This is not about hype, it is about disciplined integration. When implemented with governance, validation, and strategic clarity, AI becomes a force multiplier for scientific ambition. And in an industry where each percentage point of success probability translates into billions in value and years of patient impact, even incremental improvement is transformative. The leaders who act now are not chasing technology. They are redesigning probability, and redesigning probability is how we reverse the productivity curve. Not defensively, but deliberately. AI is not an experiment. It is the most powerful lever available to compress pipeline risk, enhance capital efficiency, and accelerate therapeutic impact. The decision to implement it is not technological, it is strategic.